Welcome to the Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast. On today's episode, we'll be speaking with Olivia, Miranda, and Abby about their experience studying abroad as heritage students in South Korea, Germany, and Ireland. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast. Today, we are joined by Abby, Miranda, and Olivia, who are three students who participated in our summer programs in the summer of 2024. I'm really excited about this episode. This is an episode that I've been wanting to do for a while because it's also very true to my own CIEE experience, but the episode is about heritage students going to the country that their families are from, that they have a family connection to, with CIEE. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us where they're from and where they studied. What program you studied on. Abby, you want to go?
So my name is Abby. I'm from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I studied in Dublin, Ireland, and I did the Global Entrepreneurship Program.
Hi, my name is Miranda. I'm from Connecticut, and I studied in Berlin for language and culture.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I studied in Seoul, South Korea, culture.
Amazing. And so was this your first time traveling to South Korea, Germany, and Ireland for the three of you? Was it your first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all three of you? Awesome. And so what are your family connections to these countries?
Okay, I'll go. So all my family lives in Canada, but my mom's side, her grandmother was an immigrant from Ireland, just like in search of jobs and a better life. And so they immigrated to Newfoundland in Canada, which has like a pretty large Irish population, and then into Ontario.
I'll go next. My maternal grandmother, so my mom's mom, is from Germany, and then all of her ancestors, all of that family is all from Germany. And then around, I want to say 1930s, my grandmother immigrated to the United States.
So my grandparents immigrated from Korea around the 1980s in search of like a better life for their kids. And my dad's parents went to Texas and my mom's parents went to California, and they kind of met in California.
Awesome. And do you know where were they, and it's the case for the three of you, were they in these capital cities that you studied in, or were they in smaller cities or in the countryside? Do you know where in each country they came from?
I know that my grandmother is from a smaller city in Western Germany called Koblenz. I think it's definitely in the West Germany, kind of in like the middle, like central West Germany. I'm not sure exactly like what it is like relation to, but I know that's where she's from.
Okay, cool.
I know that my dad's parents came from the capital city. They came from Seoul. And then my mom's parents came from Busan, more to the south.
Okay.
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have an exact location.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense with the immigration history, right, of Ireland. It's much older. Right. So you guys have never been to the country before. Do you guys speak the language at home, or do you maintain cultural traditions? How were these countries a part of your identity before you traveled abroad with CIEE? Were they a part of your identity? Is it something that was important to you?
For me, so Ireland, they speak like mostly English. That's the dominant language. But in terms of like music, like the typical kind of like shanty music, I definitely grew up around that a lot. Like that's definitely my mom's favorite or one of her favorite kind of things to listen to. And her side of the family, they love that kind of music. So I listened to a lot of that growing up.
We don't really speak a lot of German at home. But my mom does maintain a lot of like the German traditions that she grew up with. And she's kind of passed them around. And my mom's whole side of the family still keeps very close with like German like cultural traditions, not so much with language, but definitely with culture.
Um, I don't speak Korean in my house either, but I have very vivid memories of my family doing like traditional Korean celebrations of like the 1 year birthday, which I think is called Tol. I remember they had they put out these household objects of like uh, a whisk or like a pencil, and then whichever one the baby chose, that'd be like supposed to determine their career in the future.
Oh wow. Do you know what a whisk and a pencil meant?
I think a whisk could mean like cooking, and then a pencil would be like you'd be like a writer. They had a lot of other things too. A writer. They had a lot of other things too.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally normal, right? I think for a lot of um heritage or immigrant families in the United States, I think the language usually tends to be the first thing to go, right? So it makes so much sense that you guys didn't really speak the language at home, but it's exactly that, it's music or some kind of celebrational traditions, a lot of times food, right? That really, really stays. I mean, in my own case, my father came from Portugal. Um, and I didn't speak Portuguese at home, right? And it was my father. So I totally get that. And that's why I loved my CIA experience so much, to be able to reconnect with that. Did you guys like did you study the language before? So Miranda and Olivia, did you guys study German or Korean in any sense? Or did you kind of just say, no, this is my opportunity to learn it and start from scratch when you went to your programs?
I'll just say for me, my schools growing up were like pretty small. And the only language they like ever had was like Spanish. So I never got like a traditional like classroom sense of German, but I did do a decent amount on Duolingo
Mhm.
before. But obviously that's like n not the same in any way. But I did know a decent amount of like basic German before going just from my Duolingo proficiency.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. None of my schools ever had any languages other than like Spanish or French. So yeah, a lot of online resources were useful for me, like Duolingo and just like random websites.
Yeah, self-teaching and studying, right? Learning online in 2024, that's how so many people learn languages, right? And how did your families react when you told them that you were deciding to go to the country that they were from? Were they excited?
For me, my parents loved it. Like they had definitely pushed the idea of and like they supported me with the idea of studying abroad and they're like, "Yes, go ahead. Like this is such a great experience." And I think it made it even better that I was going somewhere that we had our culture from. So yeah, it was just an added bonus.
For me, there was a combination of like, oh, this will be like so good for you, like Abby, like this will be so good for you. And then there was also a part, especially my mom, where she was like, Germany has an interesting history. So how do I know that you're gonna be safe? But I kind of slowly convinced her, I used my amazing talking skills to convince her that I should go and that Germany's changed a little bit over time. And yeah, so in the end it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in kind of the same boat as Miranda. My mom was kind of against it. She thought I'd get kidnapped or something. So I had to convince her be like, no, it's gonna be safe. I'm gonna be with trusted adults. Don't worry.
Um, that's so funny because I remember, and I think oftentimes it can be like our own immigrant families who came from these countries who sometimes get more worried about us going back, right? So my family is from the Azores, the islands off the coast of, not off the coast, 2 hours off plane ride off the coast of Portugal in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right? So this is where my family's from, super rural, super isolated. And when I said I was studying in Lisbon, in the capital city of Portugal, all of my tias had heart attacks, right? Because, oh my goodness, you're gonna get kidnapped, this is gonna happen, that is gonna happen, right? My mom is American, my mom isn't Portuguese, and my mom was very nervous about me going, and all of my aunts would pull her aside and be like, you can't let her go. Like my Portuguese aunts who are from there. And Lisbon is one of the safest capitals in Europe. So, it's funny how that tends to happen. And I think it also, when our families come from maybe smaller parts of those countries, right? And then we're going to the capital cities or something like that. But we were all safe, right? And CIEE does a great job at keeping us safe. And all of those precautions. What were your feelings going in? Like as you were getting ready, and I mean just about study abroad in general and about going to your heritage country. So as you were getting ready to embark on this adventure, and go spend 3 or 4 weeks away from your family, what were your thoughts? How did you prepare? Where was your headspace as you were on the plane traveling?
I think I did, I don't know about you two, but I did the like apply by December, that thing, or like the early, yeah. And so I had the application done and like I got the acceptance and I was so happy, and then it just felt like months
Yeah.
until the actual trip. And so it was like I was telling people like I'm gonna go study abroad, and then when it actually happened, like the night before, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is actually happening. I'm going away for 3 weeks. Um, and I think when the plane landed and I like stepped off the plane, it's like, okay, like I'm in a new country. Like this is really cool. I went with my friend, my childhood friend, she came with me. And so that was like an added extra piece of comfort, but it just felt so much more real in the moment. And I felt a little more like I needed to gain some independence, and I was excited for the new experience.
I would say that I'm like a pretty independent person. So I wasn't too worried about being alone per se. Um, I had a homestay on my program and I had a roommate and we connected like pretty quickly, and so that was always she was a great friend to me.
Yeah, for me, I was also really nervous and excited. Um, but it helps that me and the people that we were the other people on the program, we made a little group chat beforehand and we got to know each other. And then we all arrived like kind of early to the airport, so we all got to like walk around a little bit and get to know each other more. The actual airplane ride was like it was like 11 hours long. It was a time. And then I originally was gonna get an I think an aisle seat, but then I sat next to this another person in my program, and I think the other person who we were gonna share the row with noticed our matching CIE shirts and like, oh, are you friends? Do you want to sit together? So then we got pushed to the window and middle seat, and then 11 hours of a flight in those two seats. You can't get up at all if the person was sleeping, so it was a little rough. But once we actually got to Korea, it was just like kind of like wow the whole time, especially on the bus ride to the hotel.
Um, and so before you got there, before traveling, had you heard any family stories about the country? Did you have kind of like ideas of what it would be like when you got to the country? what had you heard any stories before? Did you have any kind of preconceived notions of what it was going to be like?
Not necessarily. Um, I definitely thought more of the events of like World War II and the Holocaust before going. My family left, I want to say in 38. So right before it got really, really bad, they were able to leave. Um, so and my grandmother I think was 2 at the time, so like she didn't have like any like memories that she could like pass on. Um, and I don't think there's any family stories that I know of from from Germany just because my grandmother was so young. Um, but I definitely I really wasn't thinking of Germany when I was going. I really kind of forgot until I got there about like the whole like Cold War thing that like, happened for a good amount of time. And I was really just thinking about the Holocaust, especially when they sent me the schedule maybe like a week before the program and they were planning to take us to a concentration camp. So that was like definitely in the front of my mind when going.
I had no like family stories or like frame of reference, I guess, of the city or just Ireland in general. I had photos on Google, and my mom got me like the Rick Steves pocket guide to Ireland, like the whole, and I looked at the map, I was like, okay, this doesn't like I can manage that. But I didn't really have any other like photos or anything. That was it.
Okay.
I don't really have that many stories from my family that they told me before I went, but I definitely saw a lot of pictures on like the internet of like the traditional markets and then the really tall skyscrapers and all the lights during the night. So I guess I did have a bit of a preconceived notion of that.
And then when you got there, what was your experience like? How did it compare to the ideas that you had when you were going in?
I remember, so I think one of my like the first thing we did after leaving the airport was we took a bus from the airport to the dorms. Like we stayed in student dorms. And I remember looking out the window and I was like, this doesn't look like the Dublin I've seen on photos. It was the business sort of side of it. And so there were like new modern glass buildings. And I was like, where's the European architecture? And so that was like, I think that was my shock. And then we like slowly got into it and like went when we were more towards the dorms, I was like, okay, this is what I expected. But that was definitely a big shock for me. I wasn't expecting like the Google headquarters. I did not expect that at all.
And then especially you were doing the global entrepreneurship program, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you were in those modern buildings a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I got there, they did the same thing as Abby, where they like rounded us all up and they put us on a bus, to the and took us to the campus. But because this was a language program, we didn't stay on campus. We stayed with like homestay families. So we were all just kind of waiting to get picked up. But I remember just on the bus, I was sitting next to this girl, and I just met her as she was like, because she was just like, "Can I sit with you?" And I was like, "Yeah." Um, and we were just kind of talking about the flights, because we were on different flights and stuff. She was like, I have the screaming baby next to me, and I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. But we were just on the Autobahn, just kind of going in because the Berlin airport is pretty far outside the city. So it took us a good maybe like 30-40 minutes to like get to where the campus is, which is kind of like south of the center, a little bit. And I remember the first thing I saw, like looking out the window after we left, like the kind of like airport area, was just a massive IKEA sign. I was like, oh, this isn't too different from home.
Yeah, I also had the bus ride, the really long bus ride. Um, and what really surprised me was all the like the mixture of traditional buildings and then like really modern buildings. So there'd be like Kongbukon Palace right here, and then it's surrounded by really huge skyscrapers. So that was kind of my first impression.
Yeah. Um, I remember those moments as well. Like, I mean, of course, like the landing and the oh my God, I'm here. But then also after some point, I almost had an existential crisis where I was like, this isn't that different, right? Because you grow up thinking like, oh, my family came from a place that's different. But then, and this is the great thing about study abroad and about traveling the world is you realize that yes, there are these amazing differences that need to be celebrated, but then you just also realize how we're all just the same at the end of the day, right? And that humans are humans across the world, right? And so there was like at a couple points I hit that where I was like, wow, like this is actually really just kind of the same thing at the end of the day, right? Which is really interesting. Did you guys have a moment at all of like, oh my God, I'm in Ireland. I can't believe I'm in Ireland. I can't believe I'm in Germany. I can't believe I'm in South Korea.
I think that moment for me was I when when I got off the subway. So my host mom picked up me and my roommate from the campus, and we took a little subway ride over to her stop, and there was like maybe like a 5 minute walk away from the subway stop from her apartment. And I think as we were walking and like me and my roommate were pulling like our big suitcases like down these like kind of disorganized like pavers, I think that was when I realized, and I was kind of looking around and I was like, everything is in German. I'm in Germany right now. And I think that was when I was just walking down the road. I think I finally like it kicked in and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be living with these two people for the next month.
Yeah, I think I had like definitely two moments. I don't know what your guys' experiences with jet lag were, but the first day I was like out. Like I so badly wanted to sleep 12 hours because of course I didn't get any sleep, but we had like 45 minutes at our dorms and then it was a walking tour around the city. And so we were sitting in this kind of like the grass outside of a church. Um, and I had this moment where I was like, I don't know these people, but we're gonna be with them for the next 3 weeks. And so that was kind of definitely like an exciting moment because it was like 24 hours ago, I was at home and now I'm here. But then I think like when the studying abroad part, like the studying part kicked in, um, was like when we had to learn our bus route because we had to take the bus to get to the university. Um, so it was just, I think, like learning that and all of us getting on and just seeing other people do the same thing, just go about their daily lives, like you said, people just being people. I think that was kind of a moment of like, okay, I'm in a different city now. Like this is exciting. I get to experience something new.
For me, it was when we first got into the airport and we were in our huge group with our like bright blue CIE shirts and we were getting a lot of attention. But everyone around, I noticed they all looked like me, which was something I wasn't used to. And like there were 15 different settings on the toilets and like the ads on the TV had my mom's favorite actor and I was like, wow, this is I'm in Korea now.
That's cool. That's really cool. Um, do you guys think that your experiences were any different from the other students on program because you have a connection to the country through your family, or do you think that you kind of experienced it in the same way? Do you think there were any differences, like even emotionally, to the way you think reacted to things, or were there any things that people were discovering that you already kind of knew about? Did you get to listen to shanty music in Ireland and be the one who knew the words already?
There was actually, I learned this like on our trip. We went to Irish Immigration Museum, and I think at least half of us had Irish grandparents. And so they had like a list of people that had immigrated, and half of us were looking like, and I didn't think that that many people would have it. So we all kind of had that connection. But yeah, not really anything specific, I don't think.
I don't know how to describe that feeling, but knowing that there was at one point this entire political party regime of people who just wanted to like see all of the people of your heritage just die, and then going and standing on top of the Parliament building is definitely an experience.
It's really fun. It's really fun.
Um, I think uh, as I was the only person who was of Korean heritage on the trip, so I definitely did notice a few things. Like sometimes random people would just come up to me and start talking to me in Korean. They'd be like, "Oh, I think they were, I don't even know what they were asking. They could have been asking like if I'd rather eat red or blue crayons, like, but they'd be just talking to me in Korean. I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I have no idea what you're saying."
There was a moment actually on my trip where I was in the subway station, like waiting to go home. And these two people walked up to me. I was just standing there, like on my phone, on the like waiting by the platform. And these two people walked over to me who did not speak any German or any English. And they came up to me and they were asking me like which train. They were like pointing at the signs and like pointing at the directions on the phone. I think it was in Chinese. And and there was just a moment where I was like, I am so cool right now. There is somebody who thinks I am a native and is asking me for directions.
I actually had basically the same moment, except it was this family who spoke English and they came up to me while me and my like group was waiting for the subway and they're like talk to me in English and they're like, "Oh, can you help me find the directions to here?" And I'd been there for like a week, so I was able to help them a little and that just made me feel like, wow, I can do something.
You're
So
part of this city now, right? You're a part of this.
That happened, the exact same thing happened on our trip as well. It wasn't to me, but it was, I think, like our second or third day, and some woman came up to one of my friends and she pointed to her phone and she asked, like, there was a big map right there, and we were in kind of like a mall shopping area. Um, and she was looking for like street directions, and we had no clue. So we all looked at the map together and helped her find her way, but it was just kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, that's fun. And again, another moment of human connection and strangers helping strangers, right? And feeling of being together.
There was actually another time where I was the reverse person on this experiment. I like to cook and I normally don't have a lot of time to cook when I'm at home. And there was one time I told my host mom, I was like, you're not gonna cook tonight because I'm gonna cook us dinner. And I was so excited. I like went to Aldi and I was like, I'm gonna get all these ingredients and I'm gonna be so cool and cook. And and then I went to the store and I needed a can of crushed tomatoes, and I had no idea what crushed was in German. Um, and I was thinking about like I tried to look it up on Google Translate, but this Aldi was like in a basement, so I didn't have any cell service. And so I was like, well, maybe I can just go outside and Google it outside, but I already filled up a bag of stuff and I didn't want to just like leave it out because I can't bring my bag of stuff unpaid up to the surface to like go and Google it. So I had to go ask this random lady who was not a store employee, and I was just like, "Do you speak English?" I was just, "Do you speak English?" And she was like, and then with a like a very heavy German accent, she was like, "Yes." And then I asked her my question. She was like, "This is the one you want." And then it was when I got home, and I was so happy. So, if this woman ever watches this and remembers that day, I am so grateful for you.
That's so sweet. Let's make a campaign. I think I'm gonna like find a way to get that clip to broadcast across Berlin. Great. And have the lady find you, or just put it on TikTok. We'll put it on our TikTok and the TikTok detectives. We'll find that lady.
How did your cooking go?
Sorry.
How did your cooking go that night?
It was actually pretty good. Well, there was a fatal flaw is that the place where I was living, it had a gas stove, and I don't have a gas stove at home. So I learned after my trip that this is not how a normal gas stove works. Um, but I just thought that this is what people with gas stoves did. So there was a knob to turn it on, and I turned it, and I was like, it's not turning on. So I got my roommate, and I realized the knob turned on the gas, and then you had to take a lighter and light it, and that's why there was a bowl of lighters next to the stovetop, which seems like a safety hazard, but it wasn't, I think. And it was like those like tiny like ones that like smokers use. Those like ones that you flick them like this. And I could not do it. So every time I cooked, I had to get my roommate to do it, and she almost burned herself all the time. Um, which was not good. So I really felt bad every time I cooked because I was like, "Hey, are you gonna be home soon? Because I want to cook and I can't get the stove to turn on."
That takes talent. That actually sounds really scary to me to use one of those ones that your thumb is so close to the flame.
Because then the gas is on and you have to like get it to light, which is already hard. And then you have to like light the gas and then immediately pull it away.
Yeah,
So like I would hold the gas knob and my roommate would flick the thing and do it, and it was very scary.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I know those kind of gas stoves, but at least with a match or like with one of the longer neck lighters, that your hand isn't right on top of the flame, like one of those thumb ones. That's skill. I think I would be afraid to do that too.
I do remember one moment. You know how in the U.S. when you have those like traffic lights and then you have to push that button to get the crossing light and then it says like wait. Like I was so used to those. In Korea, they have something similar to that. So all of us would just be like pressing that button to because we thought it would make the traffic light go. But apparently, like 2 weeks in, someone told us, "Oh, don't press that because it sends like an alert to 911 because it's supposed to be for like disabled people who if they need help, they press it at the intersection." And we'd been pressing that the whole time every time we wanted to cross the street for 2 whole weeks. So that was a bit of a shock.
Oh no, and then just the crossing lights just come on automatically, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Especially, I feel like in a place like Seoul where you get like a lot of tourists, the fact that there would be something that is so similar to that but does like something completely different. I feel like that's kind of crazy that it's like, yeah, and this calls 911. Oh, like it's something I just like you would not expect. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right?
wonder how
I thought,
false
yeah, I
alarms
thought
like it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say I thought I did my research, so I was just like, I had no idea that would happen.
Like a lot of false 911 calls are happening and
I'm sure they're used to it.
yeah. Um, so um for Miranda and Olivia, would you say that you had like language growth while you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, my program wasn't a language program,
Oh.
so we didn't really have like official language classes. We had this really nice teacher named Mia who came in and she gave us like basic teaching, but whenever we wanted to like during our free time we wanted to go and explore, we were kind of off on our own. So I remember there were a lot of moments of like us like quickly like Googling like how do you say bathroom or how do you say where is this? But I think we definitely were able to pick up like phrases like that.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just kind of it was like really fun to be able to learn like that, I think.
My program was a language program. So all our classes were centered around learning German. Um, and it was pretty chill, and I learned a lot. Um, the most stressful part though is we had these things called community conversations where you would have to go like during our lunch break. Um, you would be assigned like a task to like go and like talk to a shopkeeper and ask them about like their many wares or something like that. Or like go to like just go and talk to somebody. Most of the time it was just like talk to a random stranger and ask them a question about where they're from. And German people are very like I don't want to say uptight, but they're very like they keep to themselves. And so it's really hard to kind of like talk to somebody because just in Germany because of the kind of culture around that. But it was so stressful, especially as like a supreme introvert like myself, um, talking to people in like broken German, and then they would be like, "No, I can talk to you in English," and I was like, "No, no, no, we can't do that. Please, I need a good grade."
Abby, what's it like in Dublin? Is there like, do you see the native Irish language around in signs? Like, are there things written in Gaelic around or?
Yeah, there were it's so English is the dominant language, so English was on top, and then right below there'd be Gaelic, and I didn't understand any of it. But like just seeing stop signs and stuff, you kind of I guess started to translate myself. But yeah, it was definitely interesting seeing it. And I didn't hear it very much. Um but yeah, it's like it's nice to know that there's definitely people that's a lot of people that still speak it.
What are your favorite memories from being abroad? If you had to pick one favorite memory, what would it be?
I had so everyone that went on our trip, this is like our most traumatizing memory, but it's also the funnest at the same time. Um, so we had an overnight at a like coastal, like a really small coastal town. And we stayed in this like fun adventure park. And keep in mind it was cold. Like it was not warm at all, cloudy, very cloudy. And so one of the activities was we had to get into wetsuits and go kayaking. And but we had to get into the water and like go swimming, but it was freezing cold. And so we were shivering. And then the next day we were told we had to do it again, but build like rafts out of paddle boards and some rope and like a wooden paddle. And so our group, there were like five of us in a group, and we did terribly building our thing. Like we had three paddle boards. We ended up putting like two here and then one on top, and then just roping it together and hoping for the best. And we actually won the race. So that was like that's definitely my top memory, I think, because it was cold and the wetsuits were already wet when we put them on. But like we all hated it in the moment, but it was really fun, kind of just finishing it.
One of those, like, you look back on it and laugh a lot with each
Yeah.
other. And you all get the moment more than anybody else does on the outside, right?
Yep.
Can I rapid fire like three really good memories
Sure.
because I can't choose? One memory I have is there's a cousin that I have who is living in Berlin, and I went to go see him, and it was really great. Because it was like family, and we're like very far removed, but it was really nice. There was also one time that um I was like train shenanigans. I was with people on the way home from an activity, and we had to swap trains because there was one of the trains like broke down. And there one of our friends got on the train with us, realized he left his phone on the other train, went to go grab it, but the doors had closed and that train was pulling away, turned to come back onto our train, doors closed, pull away. So that was a really funny experience, and I filmed it and I have it. Um I made a little video that I put on YouTube of just like funny moments from traveling because I filmed a lot. Um and and he's okay, by the way. He got his phone back and he was okay. But it was really funny, and we were just like cackling, and everybody on the train was staring at us because there were just a bunch of American girls just sitting on the train and laughing, and it was really funny. And then the other thing is that they took us on a trip to a little town on the border of Germany and Poland, and there was not a lot to do because it was a weekend, and everything in Germany and Poland is closed on the weekend. But there was a little like footbridge, so you could just walk across the border because it's the EU and there's no like security checkpoint or anything. So we would just walk across the border, went into Poland, and there were some cats. We pet them. I bought a pair of socks. Actually, I'm gonna get them. They're right here. I bought a pair of chicken socks from this Polish lady.
Oh my God.
It says I think these are they're still in the packaging because I don't know if I should open them or not. But it says on the back that they're made with 100% folklore, which I think is pretty great.
That is cute.
Some of my favorite moments were with my roommate. I think like we really bonded over this trip, and we'd always, during our free time, we'd go out and do like random things just by ourselves. And one time, this was such a day, we went to this place called Ihua Mural Village, which is basically just a village on a hill, and it's covered with just like art everywhere. So there's like sculptures of like cats on the side of like um buildings, and then like the stairs are painted with like koi fish. So it's super pretty. So I was like, "Hey roommate, we should go here." And she's like, "Okay, fine." I dragged her there, and we found this little shop and we went in and we got scammed by this woman there. She was like the nicest person ever. But she was like, um she was showing us these shirts and like, "Oh, you guys should get couple shirts. Look, it's so cute. This is originally $50, but just for you, I'll make it $20." Um,
Would you guys say that like this was transformational? I mean, I'm sure study abroad was transformational in many ways, and you can talk about all the ways it was transformational. But I'm wondering, would you say as heritage students, it was transformational at all in your identity as young, maybe now Irish American, German American, Korean American teens? Would you say that you identify more with the country now? Do you see yourself more as a part of the culture or not so much? What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely understand it more now. Like I have more of a point of view, but I think just like my world just got bigger. Like I just saw more things. I've been out of the country before, but I just it just added it to the list, and it was felt so nice to be somewhere else.
I don't really think it changed much for me. I say like Abby, like it kind of like broadened like my general like world view. But I don't think it changed how I view my heritage. I think I don't want to say like I grew like closer to it, but I guess like you could say that like my connection with my heritage got a little better just from like speaking German, I think, and just kind of seeing the sights. But yeah.
yeah, I think Abby put it in a really good way. My world got bigger. That was actually my first time going abroad. So it was such like an eye-opening moment to see things outside of America and see how other cultures, I guess technically my culture, but different cultures worked. And I met so many good people, and it was just, I think it was really transformative for me.
What was it like sharing the experience with your families when you got back?
I loved it. I I sat them down on the couch and I was like, I have a lot of photos to show you guys. And so I just went through it all and they just let me explain like everything. And because I was just so happy to talk to them about it.
Had your mom ever been to Ireland?
Neither of my parents ever had. That was like my subtle flex over my dad because he's traveled to a lot of places with business and everything. So I was like, this is the one place I've been that you haven't.
Yeah.
So that was like my big happiness.
That's cool.
I was just so excited um to share what I learned and stuff, and I bought each member of like my family, like my parents and my siblings, I bought them all like little gifts, and it was kind of fun to just like tell them about like, oh, like this is where this came from, and that's how it's like so cool and stuff. And I also showed a lot of pictures. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I also loved giving like the little gifts I got in the souvenirs to my friends and family. And I remember I sent a few pictures to my grandparents, and they sent a picture back of them in this place called Starfield Library. And it was like almost the exact same way, like the exact same image that I'd sent them. I thought that was so cool.
That's sweet. That's sweet. Had your parents, Olivia and Miranda, ever been to Germany or South Korea?
No.
Mm.
My dad, he immigrated from Korea at 4, but my mom hadn't been to Korea until they got married and they went back for like a little visit. Um, I don't think she had a very positive experience. I remember her telling me that she's like, I had to tell everyone I was Chinese so that they would stop speaking to me in Korean. But they haven't been back since then.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you feel like was it important to them? Did they have like how did they react once you got back to you sharing all of these memories and sharing all of the pictures?
Um, I think they were happy to have me back. I mean, I hope they were happy to have me back.
Yeah.
Um, they were like, "Oh yeah, show me all your pictures." And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I've been there." And he was an architect, so he would be like, "Oh yeah, this was designed that building you're in was designed by so and so." So I think that they were happy that I was able to explore our culture more.
Do you have you brought back anything in your daily life from the countries that you studied in? Any traditions, any foods that you like to eat now or prepare, or any like music that you discovered that you like to listen to now, or any sort of piece of culture that you brought back with you? Maybe not. I don't know.
I discovered my love for Lidl. I don't know if you guys have a Lidl around you, but we had a Lidl right across from our dorms. And that's where I got my breakfast every morning from the
Love
bakery. And that's like the one thing I took back. Because we went on a family trip a while ago and I was like, I need to find a Lidl because I know they have a Lidl here.
it.
And it's just fun to look around and see if they have the same things.
Yeah. There's a Lidl somewhere in the US?
Yeah, there's a few. I think there's one in Greensboro, maybe in North Carolina, one of the boroughs.
Cool.
My mom and I speak a little bit of like kind of like broken German to each other because my mom doesn't really know any German. Like she knows a little German, but she doesn't really know that much German. So my mom and I kind of speak broken German to each other. Um, a, a little bit more than we used to.
Yeah, so there's like room.
Um, They for us what me and my program people in my program did is they play a lot of music like everywhere in South Korea. Like they had a lot of Charlie Puth, but they had a lot of like K-pop artists. So at the end of our trip, we made like this little playlist like Korea 2024 and of all the songs that we thought really represented the trip to us. And it feels just like such a nice little like callback.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you do the K-pop program?
Yeah.
Mm, okay. Cool. Any last words, any advice that you have for somebody looking to study abroad, whether it's to a country that their family's from or just a completely different part of the world? Anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get to share?
I would say if I had like one piece of advice for someone, especially if they were just like roughly considering it, I would say like do it. It I think it changed my life and I think it's such an amazing experience. Um, so if anyone's like considering or just thinking about it, I would really try and push them to do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
I really loved studying abroad. I loved having the freedom to just discover the city every afternoon. That was like my favorite part though. Like like the activities were fun, but my favorite part was like the like 5-ish hours every afternoon to just do whatever I wanted, to see whatever I wanted. And that was so, so great. And I gained a lot of independence. And if you're thinking about it, do it. And I mean I was just so excited when I got back. I was just like so full of like I did this. It was so great.
Yeah, I'd also say just go for it. Like I think CIE does a really good job with providing scholarships if money's an issue. and you just meet so many great people, at least in my experience, and you learn so much independence, how to navigate like different cultures, which I think is super valuable for just the world in general, navigating the world. So yeah, go for it.
So thank you so much to Olivia, Miranda, and Abby for sharing your experiences with us. I loved hearing about kind of your trips to discover both yourselves, to grow and to gain independence, but also discover, the places that your families came from. And thank you to everybody watching and listening for joining us. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast.
Thank you for listening to Out of Your Comfort Zone. For more information on high school study abroad programs, visit CIEE.org/Global Navigator.